Hi and welcome to another Dech Academy video. Here I have the fourth question, the theory section of the 2012 exam. And it says, a box contains 40 identical discs, which are either red or white. If the probability of picking a red disc is 1/4, calculate the number of white discs, and 2, calculate the number of red discs that should be added such that the probability of picking a red disc will be 1/3. So to understand this question, you need to understand some basic concepts of probabilities. And I wouldn't waste time going into too much detail on theory, but I'll demonstrate the theory. And then this should refresh your memory on whatever you were taught in your lessons. So imagine a situation where there's a bag with the following situation: 2 balls. The bag contains 2 red balls, and the bag contains 1 blue ball. And I ask you what the probability of picking, and I tell you that an event is going to take place. I'm going to pick a ball, and then I ask you, it's given that I'm going to pick a ball, what is the probability of picking a blue ball? Well, to answer that question, you need to know what the probability of picking a ball in general will be, and that will be the number. Okay, let's put it so: probability of picking a red ball will be the number of red balls divided by the total number of balls. So in this case, there are 2 red balls, and the total number of balls is 3. So the probability of picking a red ball is 2/3. And this means that out of every 3 balls, 2 are red. Let's look at the bag. There are 3 balls, and 2 are red, so it agrees. Also, for probability of picking a blue ball will be number of blue balls divided by the total number of balls. Number of blue balls is 1. The total number of balls is 3. So probability of picking a blue ball is 1/3. And if you think the way you interpret this is as follows: out of every 3 balls, the total number of balls, 1 is blue. So if you look at this bag, there are 3 balls. And then what the probability is telling you now, out of every 3 balls, 1 will be blue. And that's the case here. Now, I'll give you a slightly more complicated situation. You have a bag and you have 4 blue balls. These don't even look like balls. 4 blue balls, and you have 6 red balls. And I now ask you the probability of a red ball, or picking a red ball. So let's say the event that's going to take place is that I'm going to pick a ball. And I ask you, what's the probability of picking a red ball? Well, it'll be the number of red balls divided by the total number of balls. Now there's 6 red balls, and the total number of balls is 10. 6 plus 4 blue balls, 10. And if you simplify this, you get 26, 3, 10, 5. So the probability of picking a red ball is 3/5. And the way to interpret it is that out of every 5 balls, 3 will be red. So if I asked you to find the number of red balls, so I said find the number of red balls, you would multiply the probability of picking a red ball by the total number of balls. So out of every 5 balls, there are 3 red balls. Multiplying this proportion, because the probability behaves like a proportion kind of thing, like a ratio, multiplying by the total number of balls, 10, will give you the total number of red balls. So 3/5 times 10 is 6. Similarly, for if you're going to find the probability of picking a blue ball is the number of blue balls, 4, divided by total number of balls, which is 10, which gives you 2/5. And if you asked to find, given this information, since you know that out of every 5 balls, 2 are blue, to find the number of blue balls, You multiply the probability of picking a blue ball by the total number of balls. And you will get the following, which is 205 times 10. Wow. Times 10, which is 4. So this means that there are 4 blue balls, which is the case here. So another situation you could have gotten would be that you were just given the fact that there were 10 balls. So imagine you were just told there's a bag with 10 balls. There are 10 balls in this bag, and they are red or blue. And you're told that the probability of picking a blue ball is 2/5, and the probability of picking a red ball is 3/5. And you have to find the number. Okay, let me make that different. Let me make this 20 balls. And you have to find the number of blue balls. So this hash symbol I use to represent number. It's commonly used in maths. It's a simple way of just writing number. So the number of blue balls will be the probability of picking a blue ball times the total number of balls, which is 20. And that will give you 2/5 times 20, which is 8. And without even thinking, you know that the number of red balls must be 20 minus 8, because the total number of balls are 20, and the balls are either red or blue. And since you know that there are only 8 blue ones, that means there must be 12 red ones. So that 12 plus 8 will give you 20. But again, you can also say probability of picking a red ball times the total number of balls gives you the number of red balls, which is 3/5 times 20. 5 here, 4 times 3 is 12. So these are the kind of things you need to be able to understand to solve this kind of question. Obviously, there's more probabilities, and if you think you want me to do a lesson on it, just leave a comment and I will. But I want to go straight to the question. So this question is interesting. I'm just going to demonstrate it using a picture. So have a look at the question and make sure you kind of realize that we have a situation where we have 40 discs, and they're either red or white discs. Only 2 types of discs, like 2 different colors. And then you're told the situation you're given is situation that the probability of picking a red disc is 1/4. This is important piece of information. And then you're told to calculate the number of white discs, and then you're also told to find the number of red discs number of red discs that should be added to the box. Such a probability of a red disc will be 1/3, but we'll come to that later. Let's just focus on question 1, and I'll try and break it down and be as quick as possible. I'm trying to make my videos faster, or shorter rather. So I have a box, and it has discs. So it has red discs. So it has red. Okay, these oblong objects should be taken as discs. It has red discs and white ones. That's what the question tells us. And the total number of discs are 40. So I haven't drawn 40 discs, but that's the situation we have. And you're told that if the probability of picking a red disc is 1/4. So probability of picking a red disc is 1/4. You now also find the number of white discs. Okay, the equation I showed in the previous video was that the number of, in this case, discs will be the probability, the number of white discs, right? Because that's what the question was. Well, the number of white discs would be probability of picking a white disc times the total number of discs. Okay, now we know the total number of discs. We've been told it's 40, so we know that. We want to find this. We don't know what this is, but if we can find out what this is, then we can just multiply this by this to get the number of discs. So what is the probability of picking a white disc? Well, you're told that probability of picking a red disc is 1/4, and the event is picking a disc, and there are 2 outcomes. You either pick a red disc or you pick a white disc. And the sum of probability of all outcomes for an event is always equal to 1. I'm sure you've come across that idea. I'll say it again. The sum of probabilities of all outcomes of an event is 1. And let me break it down because the terms event and outcomes can be confusing. Now, the event is that a disk is chosen. The possible outcomes is that you can either pick a red one or a white one. So I'm either picking red or white. And those are the two things that can happen. So the probability of picking a red disk plus the probability of picking a white disk should be 1. Because those are the only possible outcomes, and the sum of probabilities of the outcomes of an event is 1. That means that the probability of picking a red disk plus probability of picking a white disk is equal to 1. And if I just come here and basically continue this equation, we know the probability of picking a red disk is 1/4. Probability of picking a white disk, we don't know. The total probability is 1. So simplifying this, you can get that probability of picking a white disk is 1 minus 1/4, which is 3/4. So now we know that the probability of picking a white disk is 3/4. We know this. We now know we already knew the total number of disks. So therefore, the number of white disks in the box is probability of picking a white disk times 40, which gives you 30. So there are 30 white disks. Now, in the box, there are 40 disks. And they're now telling you there are 30 white ones. I know there are only white or red ones. That means the number of red disks must be equal to 40 minus 30. It must be 10 because there are 30 white disks. So therefore, there must be 10 red disks so that the total number of disks will be 40. Another way to determine a harder way would have been to say, okay, well, number of red disks would be the probability of picking a red disk times the total number of disks. And that would have been the probability we were given, which was 1/4, times total number of disks, which we were given is 40, which is 10. So that's question 1 answered. So before I answer question 2, let me just highlight what we know so far. We know that the probability of picking a white disk is 3/4. And we know the number of white disks is 30. And the number of red disks is 10. That's what we know so far. We have a situation where they're saying calculate the number of red disks that should be added to the box such that the probability of picking a red disk will be 1/3. So originally there are 40 disks and there are 10 red disks. And in that situation, probability of picking a red disk was 1/4. Now they're saying, imagine you add a certain number of red disks. Find the number of red disks that needs to be added so that the probability of picking a red disk will be 1/3. I can imagine that this could be confusing for people. But if you just go back to the equation we've been using so far, you want the number of, change it to this form. The probability of picking a red disk is the number of red disks divided by the total number of disks. Now the question has told us that they want this to be 1/3. They want the probability of picking red disks to be 1/3. And we now need to determine the number of red disks that needs to be added. Okay. Now, in this situation, the number of red disks will be the original number, which is 10, plus the number that needs to be added. So I'm going to call that X. Is that unknown? We don't know it. So I'm going to say let the number of red disks that needs to be added be X. So the number of red disks now is 10 plus X. For this situation, we don't know what that X is, but for this X, the probability will be 1/3. And the total number of disks for this situation would be the original number, 40, plus the number of disks you just added, X. Therefore, from this equation, the probability of picking a red disk is 1/3, because that's what the question is asking for. And they're asking us to basically find, and the number of red disks is 10 plus x. The total number of disks now is 40 plus x, and they're telling us to find this x value. And if you just cross multiply this expression, you will get x as 5. So if you just cross multiply, you get 40 plus x equals 3 into 10 plus x. So 40 plus x is equals 30 plus 3x. So 10 is equal to 2x. So x is equal to 5. And I define x as the number of red disks that needs to be added. So let's test the situation. Imagine originally we had 10 red disks, but now if you add 5 to the original 10, you have 15 red disks, which means that the total number of disks will now be the original number of disks 40 plus the number of disks you just added 5, which is 45. Now in this situation where you have 10 and 15 red disks and 45 disks in total, the probability of picking a red disk is 15 over 45, which if you simplify gives you, well, let's do it, 5 here 3, 5 here 9, 3 here 1, 3 here 3. So that's 1/3 as required. Thank you.